Good evening, Belize, and welcome to XTV's news broadcast for Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Making the headlines tonight, teachers vote to demonstrate. Education Ministry says work is getting done to address their concerns. Mechanic murdered in Belize City on Labor Day. Transport officials meet public transport operators. And parents protest outside Corozal School following suspension of 2 teachers. We take our first break and return with the news in detail. Welcome back with your news. I am Drea Espinosa. The Belize National Teachers Union, BNTU, will protest against the government for 5 demands to be met. This was the decision taken by majority vote during countrywide branch meetings on Wednesday. The results were made known via a letter from the national president to the membership. She informed that over 2,500 members voted to demonstrate in a first phase if their demands are not met. That will escalate to a 2-day national shutdown in Phase 2 and then a full-blown strike in Phase 3. Among other things, the BNTU is asking for an 8.5% salary increase, an increase in the minimum wage to $6, and an increase in the transfer grant from $1,200 to $1,500. While it has been reported elsewhere that the teachers' demonstration is set for Monday, we have confirmed that the Council of Management of the Belize National Teachers Union is only just set to meet tomorrow about the results of the vote taken on Wednesday. They will then set the date for the demonstration. New Minister of Education Honorable Oscar Requena addressed the impending action of the BNTU.
Yes, I am aware of the demands that the teachers are making, and I must say that we understand and respect that is their right to be able to voice their concerns. Obviously, the membership voted. Certainly for us, we can understand and appreciate the concerns that they have. We have a duty as a government to sit down to discuss the issues that were brought up by the BNTU, and I'm certain that Cabinet is going to advise on a plan forward.
Will you try to get them to the table before they get to that point of demonstrating?
Absolutely. I want to say that we have had a very cordial and respectful relationship with the BNTU. We understand the role of the union and we appreciate the work that our teachers do. Please, I think that is very important for me to set the record straight. And obviously, the only way to resolve whatever issues there are is to come to the table. We need to sit down, we need to dialogue, we need to work together, and we need to understand, in as much as the teachers have their demands as a country, we also have certain challenges. But we need to find a way, to work, to be able to take into account the concerns and the issues that our teachers have, and similarly, what are the challenges and constraints that government, has, and see how best we can work a way forward to address the concerns.
The minister was asked whether or not the government can afford to meet the salary increase demand, which is top among the teachers' demands.
I cannot speak individually to that because certainly that is a matter for Cabinet to consider, and obviously once Cabinet sits on it, we will certainly appraise the union, the teachers, and certainly the media.
Do you feel like BNTU isn't collaborating with the ministry well, especially since they sent the memo saying, we detect this day off, we'll have our meeting, and you all responded like, we need more time in advance?
Listen, BNTU has every right, to voice their concerns. The teachers have their right to voice the concerns, how they feel about a certain situation. We live in a democratic country. We need to understand and appreciate that. We have had, a good cordial working relationship with BNTU. I believe that the basis on which that memo was written was the fact that during the BNTU convention, the ministry, in the spirit of collaboration and support, we granted 2 working days for the teachers to actually participate in their convention. And we felt that, we needed, more time, but that is okay. There was a follow-up memo sent and essentially said, we understand the situation. Please ensure that, you have students well taken care of at school, that they are engaged in tasks, and that when you're finished, you go back to your classroom. And again, reminding you that, for future reference, just adhere, to the time frame. So it's not a matter of us, quarreling or fighting with BNTU.
Public Service Minister Henry Usher has also called on the union to sit with the government and resolve their issues by way of negotiation.
I know that when they're doing that in a good faith measure. It's not about being spiteful or anything like that. I genuinely believe that. Of course, I wouldn't want to see any classroom days missed. I wouldn't want students to miss school. But we understand where the union is coming from in terms of representation of their membership, requesting certain, making certain requests of the government, of the Ministry of Education. And they understand as well that not all of their requests will get a favorable response because we just can't do everything that they are asking. But I would just want, again, to say, let us continue the dialogue, let us continue to talk, and let us see if we can solve those issues around the table rather than on the street.
Since there was word that the Belize National Teachers Union was mobilizing toward industrial action, the Ministry of Education has gone into overdrive and started posting snippets on its Facebook page about the actions it has taken to, quote, reduce delays, cut red tape, and ensure our teachers can focus on what matters most, teaching and learning. We're creating a system that works for educators, not against them, end quote. In an accompanying infographic, it notes that the ministry is digitizing the form for allowances and increments. This will become active in July this year. It adds that it has completed appointments of 1,300 primary and secondary school teachers and all appointments for secondary administrators and 50% for primary administrators. To resolve issues about teachers' salaries and benefits, the ministry says it has approved the hiring of additional staff to process the paperwork. 31 operators in the public transport industry met today with the new leadership team at the ministry. Minister Louis Zabane says he shared with the operators his vision that he presented to Cabinet last week. It features all operators being integrated into a new public-private partnership company.
If we have all the operators come together, agree, we form a company, we also include the terminals, we have a valuation of the entire sector, we fairly, using an independent auditor, determine their values within the sector. We have the option that they will get to either take that value as shares in the company or a portion of it in the company or get paid out completely. That will be their decision. We have a company that's national now. One company can hire a highly qualified administrative team that's supervised by a board, and that then we are able to take care of many of the issues in that regard. The scheduling, which is a huge problem, where we have in some cases a lot of demand but few equipment, or a lot of equipment and no demand, so there's mismatch. Those things can be resolved. We have, as a public-private arrangement, where the company gets concessions from the government. You can buy in bulk. A company like that gets its tires, gets its fuel, gets all the inputs that have caused a very high-cost industry to be barely making it, and so they cannot reinvest in their equipment right now. But one single company that they own can now have economies of scale, buy all of these inputs, get lower costs, and be able to do much better.
The minister, however, was asked what they plan to do in the short term to address the issues that commuters are currently facing, given that he says everyone needs to shift their focus to passengers.
Obviously, we discussed that with them. We made it very clear. We did a review of the road service permits, and we looked at the conditions, 18 conditions. And by the time we reached condition number 6, about half of those buses could not run on the road if we were enforcing what's there on those permits. And so I'm sure that's where CEO will be able to come in with his significant experience in the area of enforcement, because we're very serious about enforcing. So we have between now and the end of the year, where we will be working with the sector on this proposed public-private partnership. But in the meantime, we made it very clear that we will be doing our work and that they should expect that these things will be done. So I think it was a very candid discussion. They shared their concerns with us, which we are grateful for. So in the meantime, we have to do what we are here to do. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that even if we do that and do nothing else, you will still have old equipment, you will still have inefficiencies in the system. So those are the long-term solutions that we have to look for, which in this case, if we're able to get it done between now and the end of this year, will really be a medium-term approach that we feel can transform this industry significantly.
CEO Chester Williams was asked to shed some light on enforcement. He says bus owners need to be held accountable.
As Minister have said, this is something that is very important to the government. Transforming the transport industry is not something that we take lightly. It's something that we are serious in ensuring that it is done. And we met last week with this week rather, with the Transport Board. And the Deputy Chief was going through the conditions outlined on the road service permit. And as Minister said, if you were to apply the law the way we should, by the time we reach number 6, half the number of buses would not be qualified for renewal. But they have been renewed. And I have directed the CTO, the Chief Transport Officer, that we need to do more in terms of enforcement. And spot checks is one thing that they must do. After having issued the road service permit, the question is, who do follow up to make sure that the conditions that we put behind those permits are being adhered to? The answer is little to nothing is being done. That needs to change. Commuters are paying for our service, and these people have the ability to provide that service. We must ensure that it is provided in the most professional and humane way possible. To see buses on our highways that are dirty, buses where you're seeing the street from the flooring of the bus, buses where if it rains, passengers get wet, it cannot continue. We must do better. So in a short term, we're looking at improving what currently exists by doing spot checks and more enforcement. And then, as Minister have said, on the longer term is what Minister have explained earlier in terms of the PPP process. What they need to understand is that we're not going to be too hard and fast in terms of revoking license or permits. But if the inspection is done and the inspection reveals a breach of a condition, what we have directed is that the CTO is going to write the bus owner and said to them, we inspected the bus on so and so date, and this was one infraction that we saw, and then perhaps give a warning. And perhaps maybe after 2-3 warning, then we move to another level in terms of suspending your permit until you can do better.
Williams said if bus operators are citing lack of capital as a reason to violate their permit, then they should not be offering the service. Thomas Shaw, the president of the Belize Bus Association, said he has to hear back from the members, but he personally supports the approach. He also shared some of the concerns they raised at today's meeting.
My presentation, we were talking about the ministerial interferences, we were talking about fairness. Well, the minister assured us that it's a different ball game, that isn't going to happen. It's so sad to know that it took them so long to recognize that this is an industry, because all the other industries were recognized and subsidized. If this industry were subsidized, we wouldn't be where we're at right now. And to be honest with you, they should have treated the way they treated the sugar industry, the way they treated the citrus. But in the past, what has been taking place, whenever we bring up certain things, it's an argument between both parties, and we don't want that. We want to discontinue that. As I said, we are here to work. We're not here in bitterness to actually say, well, we're not in agreement with what we're doing. We're here to listen and to see how we can better and provide a better bus system out there for the commuters.
Do you foresee any clashes on the road with enforcement personnel, especially when they come heavy-handed?
Well, I can see that, but as I say, it's something we need to, and even sitting at the board level, it's something we'll have to work with on a one-on-one situation, whereas, because I know that where he came from, there were a lot of enforcement, and I know that with the transport, I know it's going to be even worse with all the reckless driving and all the rest of it.
Do you acknowledge that there is in fact a problem on the road with
I'm not
reckless
going-
driving,
I'm not-
bus owners, bus drivers drinking on the job?
Absolutely, I'm not going to stand here and lie to the public. It's happening. And we are responsible for the 35, 40 passengers that sits in the back. And it do happens, you know, drivers, they drink, they smoke, they text, they drive. And from the association sides, we do not condone things like that. So as I said, it should be a smooth process once we work together and we continue this dialogue within the department and the stakeholders in the industry, because only that way we can go forward. One of the main objectives was, in my remarks, was that operators were asked to upgrade, and they were going to get a 5 years permit, they were going to get a 10 years based on your investment. And the whole ball game is changing again, and this is the reason why operators are a bit optimistic, hesitant in making that a hasty decision, because we find out that we come and the minister say one thing, and somewhere down the road you find out that, well, government is broke or cabinet no approve it and things like this. So we want to know that whatever is being done, if we're supposed to form this company, we want to make sure that it's being legislated by law, that if the government changes.
Shaw explained that the plan is that each bus operator will be assessed individually if they want to buy into the plan. Those who do not want to proceed will have the option to be bought out, while those who wish to join the PPP will have their value assessed to receive shares. A man who was killed on Labor Day on Coney Drive in Belize City after 8 p.m. has been identified as 61-year-old Carlos Avelar, a Belizean mechanic. According to the police report, he was approached by two men on motorcycle. One fired several shots at him, hitting him to the upper body multiple times. He died at the scene. He was visiting his sister when he was targeted. Police are investigating. The National Assembly has announced the inaugural meeting of the House of Representatives and the Senate for Friday, May 9th. The joint sitting will be held in front of the Sir Edney Kane building in Belmopan. The proceedings will begin with the inaugural sitting of the Senate at 8:45 a.m., followed by the inaugural sitting of the House at 9 a.m. The inaugural sitting of Parliament comes almost 2 months after the March 12 elections. We are reliably informed that Prime Minister John Briceño's first budget in his second term will then be presented on Monday, March 12. After the break, customs officers investigated for marijuana shipping through Belize City Port. Stay with us.
Hi there. Are you on your phone right now?
About 30 parents of students from Corozal Methodist School in Corozal Town gathered near the seawall outside the school this morning to protest the administration's decision to suspend 2 teachers of Playword Methodist Preschool. Up to 8 teachers have also staged a sick out in protest. Reports are that the parents were seeking separate graduation ceremonies for the primary and the preschool, and the teachers were trying to accommodate this, organizing a meeting following the Easter vacation. However, the school's management got wind of the meeting and canceled it, with the principal, Selene Rayburn, stating that the 2 teachers had no authority to schedule such a meeting. The 2 preschool teachers, Julie Castro and Stacy Chi, both received letters dated April 29 from Jacqueline Welch, the general manager of Methodist schools in the country. They are accused of professional misconduct and were told they'd be placed on paid administrative leave while the matter is investigated. The letter in part states, quote, "The allegations are that you have repeatedly and flagrantly acted with disregard and in contravention to lawful instructions, orders, and or directives given by the administrators of Corozal Methodist School. Additionally, you have disseminated misinformation to students, parents, and the community regarding commencement exercises organized for the school, which have been prejudicial and inimical to the best interests of schools," end quote. Chanting for the teachers to be brought back, the parents today said they are loved by their students. In a meeting, the principal told the parents that the 2 teachers had been acting unprofessionally since the beginning of the school year, but they do not believe the allegations. Parents are now calling for the principal to go. The grandparent of 3 students at the school, Barbara Acosta, spoke against the school's decision.
For stimulation month, ma'am, we went the whole stimulation month without not a help from the principal. When we had cultural day, you know what she did? She stood from like that, like she don't want that we do it, like she too better for that we do it. I think as a principal and an educated person that she calls herself, that is wrong. Cooperation is everything. Ma'am, this is the worst Methodist school have ever been. All my kids went to this school. Me, I live in Altamira. I have Guadalupe School. I live 1 lane from Guadalupe School, but I chose Methodist School because I like the school. But the way the school is now, it's gone.
So what are you guys asking for, hoping to achieve?
We want better for Methodist, and we want our teacher back. Like what she says. She says, it said like this, if we either go by her appliance or we come out. Why should an educational person talk like that? That is not right. You got to deal with the fact. From since it's going to be like an air now, it's one time we have a meeting with that principal. One time. No, we put out 2 hour preschool teacher. That is not right.
Earlier this month, 2 customs officers were implicated in the importation of 15 pounds of high-grade marijuana in a shipment that arrived at the Belize City port. They told their colleague it was Bath and Body Works lotions in a box. But when it was checked, it turned out to be the illegal substance worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. On his final day on the job, Chester Williams said he gave his officers instructions regarding the investigation of the customs officers.
I spoke to those police officers involved in that investigation today, and I gave them certain directives. I will not say what those directives are that I gave today, but I expect that they're going to be carried through. Again, we have a situation where people are involved in the importation of drugs into this country. It is something that must not be tolerated, and it doesn't matter where you work. Importation of drugs is legal and shall be treated as such. And so I am hoping that the officers are going to carry through the instruction, and the file will be going to the DPP then for the DPP to determine if there is sufficient evidence against those custom officers who are implicated for them to be charged. So that is where the matter is at this time.
When we spoke with Coral Lord, the Belize District Branch President of the Belize National Teachers Union, she shared one example of a teacher who is facing continued breakdowns in the payment of her salary due to issues with the processing of her teacher's license.
Yes, we have teachers who have been impacted. In fact, I had a member whose license had expired, but that member got the renewal of the license before the expiration of the previous license. But because information is not readily shared between those responsible for payroll, that member was taken off payroll despite having a valid license at this time. So those are some of the things that our national president spoke to when she did her wrongs in the media, her last wrong in the media, because we have an agreement with the government to ensure with the Ministry of Education per se to ensure that this does not happen. When a teacher license is in process, we had asked that the teacher be retained because the teacher is still teaching, the teacher is still working. As long as they meet the requirements to maintain that license, we ask that that agreement be honored.
The Leadership Intervention Unit, LIU, in collaboration with the University of Belize, held a symposium today at the Central Campus in Belmopan titled Youth in Peace Building, Empowering Change Through Restorative Justice. Dominique Norales, the chairperson of the LIU, told the media that she knows these youth will be the ones who in the future lead programs like LIU and spoke of the importance of getting them on board early. Clint Jacobs of the Poor and Famous organization spoke of the importance for the students to get the perspective from the grassroots communities.
I know that these students who are in the Faculty of Management and Social Sciences will be the students that will be leading programs like LIU, like CRD, like Restore Belize in the years to come. And I think it's very important for people to understand the context of the work that serves people who are from marginalized and vulnerable populations. They have to understand the policy, they have to understand the actions, they have to understand the challenges. And the sooner people get to interact with those things, the better it will be to address it, or the easier it will be, we hope, to address those issues if they sustain in the years to come.
Well, I feel it's important that we be a part of the symposium today, being a representative of the Poor and Famous Youth Culture Club on the south side of Belize. That we're developing issues and we developing things to deal with the social ills of the gangs and the crime that's being affecting our society. So it's important that we represent to have a voice from the grassroots community to represent those people who's at the bottom and the people who are actually in the trenches who are going through it. Me being one of those persons who have transformed my life and come to transform my life on a positive level, I feel that it's very important that I'm here to represent that demographic to give some insight and understanding into the source of the problem. That way we could develop relevant solutions.
After the break, 6 women will vie for Miss Universe Belize 2025 crown. Stay tuned.
20 years ago, we built a company that is about more than
This week in Belize City, a two-day workshop was held with media personnel across the country on ways to ethically report cases of suicide and mental health. The training was organized by the Mental Health Unit of the Ministry of Health and Wellness in collaboration with the Pan-American Health Organization, PAHO. Iveth Quintanilla is the technical advisor within the unit.
This two-day training is geared towards journalists, influencers, and the purpose of it is that we are trying to educate you on responsible and ethical reporting on mental health and suicide. And this is being done in collaboration with PAHO through two consultants from India, from the Indian Society of Law. Part of the training consists on speaking what mental health is about. Also, we are trying to address the myths and beliefs that people have in regards to suicide and mental health. For example, people believe that if we speak about suicide, we put ideas in people's minds about suicide, and that is not so. There's also belief that persons who suffer from mental illness are normally aggressive. That is another myth that is not true. Oftentimes that they are on the receiving end of being hurt. So that is part of what is being done, as well as encouraging you to report on suicide and mental health, but the proper way in terms of reporting about it, being more compassionate, more humane, and sharing the proper information when it comes to suicide.
Meera Damji from the Indian Law Society said that they are aware that the media needs to produce stories that people will want to watch or read, and emphasized that the training was meant to assist journalists to do so in an ethical manner.
I think the media really understands the power and responsibility that they have. They know the role that they play, but I think what we really need to highlight is what this role really means in the context of suicide prevention and mental illness. So the questions that came up in the room were, okay, I know that I need to cover the story in a certain way. I know that I need to write about mental illness in a way that it's not stigmatizing, but I don't have the tools. And I think that's where we really come in to support everyone in the room. So at the end of this two-day training session, what we're really looking at is one, for the media to understand what power and responsibility that they hold in the context of suicide and mental illness. How can they write stories which aid suicide prevention and destigmatize mental illness? And when they understand their responsibility, what are the tools that they have? What are the techniques that they can use? And because of my background in media, I know there's there are presentations and there are lectures that are made. But in your day-to-day, everyday work, how does that play out? When you're running somewhere to cover a story quickly and you're just given a mic and you have to interview someone, you need some tricks and tools. And I think that's what we're really looking to equip the media with, that considering the constraints in resources, in time, how can you make sure that you're writing a story which is aiding suicide prevention and a story which is being read? In this day and age of digital media, everything is clickbait, so a story which is sensational, a story which is actually over dramatizing a situation will get a lot more eyeballs than a simple story. So the idea is that how do you tell a story about suicide in a way where it's not violating any guidelines, it's not pushing anyone to the brink, but at the same time people are reading it because it's giving them some information which is useful. So again, it's going to go viral, but for the right reasons.
A two-day workshop was held this week in Belmopan to review Belize's greenhouse gas inventory. The workshop, which concluded Friday, saw the gathering of sector leads, technical experts, and other key stakeholders who met to discuss inventory presentations on energy, industrial processes and product use, and waste agriculture and forestry. The workshop helped to identify data gaps and how to address them in future reports. Idami Pinello, the Chief Climate Change Officer at the National Climate Change Office, spoke of some of the gaps identified and what can be done to address those.
This two-day session is very important for us because we are reviewing sector by sector the inventory and also to identify how we have improved and our gaps in the future, and also because we are preparing ourselves for our technical expert review from the transparency biennial transparency report.
What are some of the areas that you guys have identified that you can improve in?
So one of the areas I think that we have to identify especially is in the waste sector.
In what?
In the waste sector.
Waste.
So we need to improve there. We need to get more disintegrated data in order to us to do a better calculation. And I think one of the most important thing that we need to improve is to continue building the capacity level to our national experts in the different sectors. We have do a great job when it comes to the forest department. A good example is when we had the Red Plus project. We building that level of national, local capacity. And now the forest department has a MRV program that are embedded with loan Belizeans. So that's one of our, I say, key success when it comes to improving our data collection, because that's key. If we do have people with the level of knowledge and capacity, so they can calculate and improve the data and see where we need to also align ourselves with the international demands. That every time we need to align, especially when it comes to data collection, we need to align with the 2006 IPPC guidelines.
A delegation from the Belmopan City Council, including Mayor Pablo Kowich, recently returned from a trip to Playa del Carmen, Quintana Roo in Mexico. The purpose of the trip was to start the process to eventually establish a sister city relationship. Mayor Kowich said the group met with the mayor of Playa and representatives from various municipal departments. He explained how the partnership could benefit Belmopan.
Yes, we recently returned yesterday from a trip to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, where we had met with Licenciada Angie Estefania Mercado, who is the Presidencia Municipal for the city. We met with her and her head of department team from the different departments, traffic, health, business investments, mental, how they handle mental residents, traffic, and overall it was to start to secure sister city relations with Playa del Carmen. One of the benefits is mostly knowledge sharing. One of the topics that we had also expressed assistance with is urban planning. We wanted to see how their experience can assist our city in improving the urban planning for our city.
In other news, the Miss Universe Belize organization on Monday revealed the 6 young ladies who will be vying for the chance to represent the country on the Miss Universe stage in Thailand in November. The Miss Universe Belize 2025 pageant is scheduled to take place in June at the Belize City Civic Center. It will be the second pageant under National Director Destiny Arnold. Outgoing beauty ambassador Halima Hoy spoke of the new delegates and explained a new way supporters can help their delegates secure a top 4 placement. She also touched on the importance of being respectful towards the delegates.
I feel like we have 6 solid contestants. I'm super happy and excited to see what they're going to bring to the stage, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks because they all have such unique backgrounds, unique stories, advocacies, education, and I feel like they're going to offer that diversity to the platform as well as to Belize, because honestly Belize is a diverse country and we can see that in the delegates that we have this year. So the entire country should be excited about them. We have an exciting addition to the pageant. We're gonna have a voter's choice for the top 4, so that person automatically will get entered into the top 4, and I think they're gonna announce more about that in June and how to do that. But I think right now just being kind, being positive, being encouraging and uplifting as a woman in a beauty pageant, it's very emotional. It's a roller coaster. There's moments of doubt and mental health is at risk, you know. So just being as positive as you can support one girl without bringing down the other. So that's super important to bear in.
And Shayari Morataya, Miss World Belize 2024, departed from the Philip Golson International Airport today en route to India. Shayari will be representing Belize at Miss World 2025, which will be held in Hyderabad, India, with the pageant final scheduled for May 31. Belize will compete against women from some 110 countries and territories. In a post on the Facebook page of the ILS Phoenix, the Miss World franchise holder in Belize, Shayari is described as, quote, a passionate advocate, a mentor, and a voice for kidney health awareness in Belize through her Beauty with a Purpose project. Her grace, intelligence, and dedication make her a true embodiment of what it means to be Miss World Belize, end quote. The 23-year-old beauty is trying to repeat what has only been done once before, placing at Miss World back in 2023. Elise Gayon Vernon placed in the top 40, giving Belize its first ever placement at the international pageant. And with that, we have come to the end of our newscast. The repeat can be viewed on the station later tonight at 9 and again Monday at midday. Join us again Monday for another news broadcast. I am Drea Espinosa. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend.